Quainito Bach, hello friends. Indelawasin Denise Pouliot, Sagama Squaw. Woodelawasin Paul Pouliot, Sagamo, Cowasuck Band of the Pennacook-Abenaki People. Neona Aian, Alton, New Hampshire. Hi, my name is Denise Pouliot. I'm the head female speaker, and this is Paul Pouliot, head male speaker of the Cowasuck Band of the Pennacook-Abenaki People. We are located in Alton, New Hampshire. Today, we are sitting on the Oyster River over by the Oyster River Dam.
Okay, we're going to start today by doing a little bit of a song that honors our homelands. Our homelands are called Mandakina. This song honors our homelands, and it honors our ancestors, and first and foremost, it honors the creator of all things, the mystery of life that put us here. Mandakina, away, away. Holy, go on, away. Holy, casino us. Holy, casino us. Nanakina, away, away. Holy, go on, away. Holy, casino us. Holy, casino us. We sang that song today. Normally we would do a land statement. These lands, Mandakina, were the ancient homelands of the Pennacook-Abenaki and Wabanaki people. These lands were never ceded to any government or to any particular person. So these lands we still think are ours. We like to honor not only the land, but the waterways, the air, the flora, the fauna, and all of the things that are living in the Nakina, because they sustained us through thousands of years. In fact, probably 12,000 years our ancestors have lived in this particular place called the Nakina. And with that, we'd like to honor all those things and our ancestors that came before us, for they stewarded this land and it's still here. Today we're at in Durham, just off campus of UNH. Our tribe started to work with UNH through anthropology and archaeology back in 2008, I should say. We have been engaging various people in this particular community since 2008, doing environmental and social justice projects of all sorts. So we think we have, even though we live in Alton, we have a rich connection here with Durham and the Piscataway watershed area and all the towns, whether it be Dover or Portsmouth or Durham itself. We are here at the site of the mill pond because this has become an item of discussion about removing the dam that was erected here in the early 1600s. In the early 1600s, there was in approximately the same location, there was a fishing weir. And we know this from records. And this fishing weir was just about where the same dam is today. For illustration, we have a book from Mary Proctor, which she was a historian, and her book was about the Winnipesaukee in the Pemigewasset watershed of New Hampshire. She was a well-known historian. She wrote this book in 1930, and she talks about what ancient fish weirs looked like in the day, and we have a picture of one. And we assume that this picture is probably very similar to what would have been in this location before they built the first log dam. The fishing weirs were installed to help channel the fish into a particular location for our ancestors to either spear the fish or to gather them with nets or by hand gathering. And as we witnessed today, Fish and Game was down at the fish trap at the dam, and they had removed approximately 2,000 bluebacks that were trying to migrate into this watershed again. And if it weren't for the grace of our Fish and Game people, these fish wouldn't have been able to spawn. Their prodigy will be able to go over the dam even in low water, because that's what will happen. They'll be able to migrate out, but they can't get into this watershed. So we look at this as something that should really be removed. I mean, we've been talking with experts, whether it's Fish and Game people, other indigenous groups, experts on dam and dam removals, and Army Engineer Corps people. A lot of these dams pose quite a few significant problems. First of all, a lot of these dams were built in a time period when they were either log or dirt construction, and they're unsafe. So the Army Engineer Corps lists a lot of these dams as things that potentially have to be either reconstructed or removed. So there's one issue of public safety. The other one is environmental issues. These dams allow pollutants to collect in the watershed that they've flooded. And this has become a really serious issue, because these things develop into different algae when the low flows occur, and they become oxygen depleted water areas. If this water was allowed to flow, the hatched bluebacks that are going to be in this watershed would be a lot better off, because the oxygen level would stay higher. Because as the temperatures get higher, we get into these algae blooms and depletion of oxygen. So we look at it as an environmental and a safety issue. But more importantly, we hear off and on about, we romanticize about these old mill dams, what the industry was. There was a grist mill, there was a lumber mill here. So what? There was a fish weir here. People don't realize every time a dam was built on the Piscataway watershed, it meant less fish could migrate inland. This was a way of starving our people.
Starving the animals, starving everything.
People don't look at it they look at it as, oh, we just put one dam down here in Durham. You know, that stopped all the migrating fish all the way up the Oyster River from that point on. And people look at it as, oh, that was only one dam, what's the problem? Well, it's just that after one dam, there was another dam and another dam. There's two more up beyond UNH. So, you know, the watershed has all been fractured. And these fish want to come back.
They need to come back.
It's all part of our ecosystem. People don't realize the interconnectability of all these species and how important it is. These fish, people say they're never going to come back. You know what? That's not true. We were involved when Exeter went through this hand-wringing process, and they had an unsafe dam, and they looked at the economics, and it came down to purely economics. Do we keep on throwing millions of dollars to shore up something that's romantic and maybe is historical, because in the 1800s we had something here, or maybe even as early as 1700s? When in fact,
that's not historical.
That's not historical. That's near term. That's ridiculous.
It's recent history.
So if this, and what we'd like to see here is a fish weir put in there. We look at it as, what a great opportunity. It may be a reconstruction, but people will come here from all over looking at, this is what a fishing weir looked like on one of these rivers, in a right place. And it's right at a place where you can stop on that bridge and look down, and you'll be able to see a fish weir. This is something that was here well before the 1600s.
Should never have been removed in the first place. And all these dams do is they stop the fish from migrating, which makes people dependent upon the government and upon the state in order to be fed. We can't hunt and fish the way we used to. We're no longer a self-sufficient people. We're dependent upon our government to make sure food is imported in order for us to eat. And we shouldn't have to base our life on imports. We should be self-sustaining here.
You know, when the Exeter River opened up, everybody said it was a doom and gloom thing. It's going to be a failure. Well, within that first migration season, all the alewives and bluebacks were coming back. All of those fish, they said, would never come back, came back. The American eel, which is a real strong survivor, came back in great strength, because the American eel, being a slippery little character, doesn't find the dams as imposing, but that opened up the whole Oyster River again. You know, we look at how our fishing game has to stock all the fish, whether it's trout and landlocked salmon. It's all because we did these stupid things in colonial days, and we destroyed the migratory fish patterns to all of our inland lakes and ponds and waterways. This is a small step. We look at it as this Piscataway watershed really needs to be relieved. I mean, the Exeter was one success, but there's so many small dams that need to be replaced. We've been talking with other conservation groups. Some of the ocean outlet culverts are being opened and expanded so the migratory fish will have no obstacles once we get some of these dams out of the way. People are proactively thinking about migratory fish coming deep inland again, finding places to spawn. And it doesn't have to be an ecosystem exactly like this. Apparently, the fish will come and find their places to lay their eggs and their hatchlings, as long as they have clean flowing water. So we look at this, the town should really wake up and realize spending more money to preserve this or to reconstruct this.
Colonial suppression. That's what you're trying to reconstruct. Colonial suppression. It's time that we're all free.
In some ways, it you know, the romanticness of painting pictures of a dam and everything is quite bluntly, it's white privilege. You know, like we can paint these pictures, and I'd rather see water flowing here and all the other migratory birds that would come back into these wetlands again, because once this is all kind of purged of all the pollutants, you're going to see a robust ecosystem come back of flora and fauna. And you know, this is just one of those steps, and we have to put the pressure on UNH to do the same thing, take the dams that are up on their property as well, and then we'll have a free-flowing watershed that is very robust. We heard one politician say this is Oyster River. They would really like to see this known for shellfish again. And the only way you can do that is if you allow it to free flow again. So with that, we're really hoping that the town of Durham weighs in on this. I know there are many experts that have weighed in on this about the dam removal and the aspects of how important it would be to remove it. And I think people should listen to the science and not to the emotion about historical wonders of a mill dam here. Weighing in on the science. Again, the science says remove it and you're going to see a great thing happen here. And those that claim their property values are going to get hurt, there's no study that's ever said that's ever happened when any one of these dams have ever been removed. So rest assured, this is a sound project that should go forward. Remove the dam, free the flora and fauna, and allow this river to go back to its natural state. And our idea about the weirs, putting it back in, would make this a great historical spot, and the town could take great pride in having one of the only visible operating fish weirs. There are a couple of them that are visible, but they're now on private property and they're not accessible. This would be one of the very few that has public access where people could actually see what an ancient Abenaki fish weir would have looked like. And with that, we hope you respect our wishes. And do you have anything else?
Let the eagles eat.
Let the birds, the eagles, and the migratory fish come back. This will be a great ecosystem if the dam is removed.
Right.